Welcome back to the Soul Flow podcast.
Soul flow, soul flow.
Yes.
My name is Kelly, and I am joined today by my amazing co-hosts, Steph, Josie, Aysha, and Rael.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Yes.
ladies and gents.
I hope everyone is doing amazing today.
Absolutely. I know I am, because today is a very special episode. We have finished and wrapped up all of our personal introductions, and today is the first episode of our spiritual topics. So I'm very excited today. We are going to be talking about Dharma.
Kelly, what is Dharma?
I'm so glad you asked, Josie. Thank you for asking. So Dharma is kind of a funny word, right? My first experience with the word Dharma was when I was growing up. There was a TV show on ABC called Dharma and Greg. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting name. Okay. And that was the last I ever heard of it. And then I grew up, and in 2020, the world was shaken and brought to a standstill by a little tiny virus. And for me, and I think in hindsight, so many people on the planet, that experience of that pandemic, of that abrupt stop to everything that was normal in our lives, really made me question, like, well, what's the point, right? Why do I do this? If suddenly I don't have to go to work every day and I'm able to work from home, why am I going to work in the first place, right? All of these questions started coming up about, well, then what's the point? What's my purpose? Why am I here? And that was really the catalyst, right? And that brought me deeper into my exploration. And Sahara Rose, our beautiful gift to the world, to the spiritual world for sure.
We love Sahara Rose.
Love you, Sahara.
Shout out to Sahara.
Manifesting an interview with you.
Sahara, I was listening to her podcast, and she kept using this word, Dharma, 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 Dharma. And I became familiar with hearing it, but I still didn't quite know what it was. And then again, the five of us brought together through the Dharma Coaching Institute. And it was really when that institute began that I understood, and the word Dharma suddenly made all the sense in the world, right? And it was through that course in Sahara's teachings that I learned what Dharma is. And so for our listeners, I'm going to lay it out for you, and we'll kind of add in and pepper in our own thoughts and try to anticipate some of your questions. But to explain it most simply, Dharma is a Sanskrit term, and there's been lots of discussion over the centuries of what it actually means, and there's variations and nuances to its definition. But if we were to just put it into a very simple package for everyone to understand, your Dharma is your soul's purpose. It is the very reason why your soul chose to incarnate in this earth at this time, because you came here for a reason. And that reason is your Dharma. It's how your soul wants to create and experience and express itself, and how you will embody that, right? If you're familiar with astrology, you can equate your Dharma to your North Node, right? Your North Node is the thing that you are here to do, to accomplish in this lifetime. So ladies, I'm curious, what are your thoughts? What are your experiences or background knowledge of Dharma?
So I actually, if any of you heard my story, the second or third episode, I came from an anxiety feeling from working a job, climbing the corporate ladder, making more money, going into management, being the best, doing the best that I can. But I was not fulfilled. I was not fulfilled in my job, overwhelmed mom. Like, everything came crashing down. And yes, I looked successful, right? Like, you make this money, you have a good job, you're working remote, you have flexibility. But at the end of the day, I came home empty inside. And it was actually through listening to Sahara's podcast and really diving into her spirituality that I learned that she had the Discovering Your Dharma book, actually. And I read Discover Your Dharma before I started Dharma Coaching Institute. And it's interesting because when I read Discover Your Dharma, I'm like, I want to add value to the world, but I don't know how. And so I was thinking, I want to be an Ayurvedic doctor. I want to be a naturopathic doctor because I want to change the world into a mindset of natural healing instead of just like going to the doctor for prescriptions to cause other issues in your life. So I like had all these ideas of what I thought I wanted. And then when I really dove into it, Discovering Your Dharma book and going through the course, Dharma Coaching Institute, my Dharma changed and it evolved. And I'm like consistently learning that my soul's purpose is to add value to the world, but in different modalities. And I think that's important for people to know because I think there may be a misconception is like, my Dharma is this, my soul's purpose is this, or my life purpose is this one thing, but it evolves and changes. And that's the beauty of it. So I just wanted to share that, and I'll open it up to Aysha and Steph as well.
Beautiful, Josie. Wow. The word Dharma, literally means purpose. And for me, I feel like my whole life, I've had this innate sense of like, I'm meant to do something that's supposed to add to this world, right? Where I want to help, I want to serve, I want to help, I wanted to be a doctor, when really I was meant to be a healer. And so those things remained with me, whatever season of life I was going with. And it's so deep. It's so innate. I could run away from it. I could be like, no, there's so many other things, do this. But it's like this calling that's been in the back of my mind and my heart and my soul. And without it, I'm not me. It channels through me, but it is also me. And I feel like the things around me, I attract things that bring me closer to it instead of farther. I feel like the universe is conspiring in our favor in that way. It wants us to fulfill our purpose because that's how we feel fulfilled. And so I feel like I manifested you guys that way, my sisters, sharing everything that I have been through and allowing others to realize these things in themselves, to see themselves more clearly. I feel like it also brings us closer to who we are, right? Yeah, that's what resonates for me and purpose. And it feels so good. It feels so good when you're in it, and then it feels really shitty when you're not in it. Mm-hmm. And it's been really interesting having seen both of those things for me. Yeah. Now, even though so many other things may not be working, I'm like, you know what? I'm here in my purpose. So I'm living in a more aligned way. I have more energy when I wake up. That stays throughout. It's like this giant pool of energy the universe is, that's always laying there for us to take from. And when you know the direction of your purpose, it's like now you have all this endless amount of energy to work with and to pull from and to create with, to co-create with. And people come to you. You guys, we all attract each other, and it becomes this rippling effect that just ends up touching one person and another. And so our listeners listening to us right now, if this gains any spark of curiosity within you, I would follow that little trail. Steph?
Yeah. Oh, Dharma made more sense to me as I continued the evolution of my struggles. And I never understood it was almost like I felt sorry for myself for all these years of like experiencing my adversities and challenges that I've shared, during my episode, my intro episode. And it makes sense to me that I am meant to teach my lessons that I've learned from my struggles, my adversities. It's like, universe, put me through the ringer to see if I could come out of it alive, one, and so that I can show and teach people that even though you are going through hell or going through like the worst of when you think you can't, there's no other way, you've hit rock bottom. The only way that you can go is up. And I feel like I had to go through these challenges to show people that it is possible. And I didn't discover that until the last couple years. It was like, I don't understand why, like, I'm just not lucky. I wasn't the chosen one that's like blessed with all these things. I actually have to put in the work and figure out these lessons and go through these lessons. But it makes sense with my health, being a gut and hormone specialist. I had to heal my health, my gut, my hormones from doing bikini bodybuilding. And then other things arose from that, emotions, anger, all these emotions that I didn't know. I was like, where are these emotions coming from? So then I was like, I gotta dig deeper. I gotta look from within and do the healing work to release this blocked energy that's in my body, that's probably been living in my body for I don't know how many years. And it makes sense. So my Dharma is to teach my life lessons. So for those of you that are struggling, that are going through something right now, there's a reason why you are going through that struggle. You're only going to come out of that even stronger. And hey, maybe the universe is saying you get to teach, you get to show other people that you too can come out of this even stronger.
Oh, Steph.
Yeah, I love that, Steph. It just made me realize that when we're going through struggles, we tend to think about woe is me, right? But you hit the, what is it called? Nail on the head when you said,
Hammer on the nail.
the head on the head, whatever. The nail on, yeah. When you said that maybe this is a sign that God, universe is trying to teach us something. And what can I learn from this experience? And whenever I am going through those struggles, which I do a lot, especially having a job and not living my Dharma fully yet, it's like, well, what is God, universe trying to teach me in this situation? How can I overcome and how can I add value to the world?
It's so easy to focus on like the negative part of it, right? Which I discovered that the negative, what I thought was negative, actually was a blessing. It was the lesson learned in that was a blessing, is a blessing. And when times of struggle arise in your life, choose to focus on the positive, what is my lesson? Like what you said, Josie, what is the lesson in this? Because there's always lessons, and there's gems in those lessons.
And matters. And the stage of development that you're in matters. And sometimes it comes all at once, and sometimes it comes very gradually. But for me, for example, I know that from being a child, I always knew that I had a different perspective, and I knew that I was meant to do things differently. Because of the environment that I was in, there were no options for me to do anything differently. And like you said, Steph, I had to go through all of these things, and I had to go through all of the negative things that happen in that kind of environment, whether it be a dysfunctional household, divorced parents, a strict religious, upbringing, and all of these abusive and things that are no longer fitting into our realm right now, into the world that we live in, and into the paradigm that we are shifting into. We are right now in an area of time, in an era of time, right? That it's all about transition. And I think that that's why sometimes the Dharma doesn't even look so clearly, because part of it for us right now, it's literally to just share our stories and to say, listen, you can have come from this background. You can have gone through all of this, and you can be completely lost in your life, and you can still find what brings you joy, find what lights your soul on fire, and find what connects you to this world in a way that will evolve your soul and get you to the next level. That's my goal here. That my goal, my purpose, my Dharma in this lifetime is to break all the patterns, is to say, no, it doesn't have to be done that way. It doesn't have to look that way. You can choose. Just find your purpose. There's no description for the feeling of when you finally step into that environment and you say, wait, there's this many people that feel the same way. There's this many people that are actually doing it. And they're doing it so simply. They can do it. I can do it too. And then once you start doing it, even like Josie said, I'm not in my full Dharma yet. I'm still working a full-time job, a very draining job, a job that doesn't exactly allow me to focus on my Dharma because it's so time-consuming and so energy-consuming as well. But the little bits, even just talking in this podcast and connecting with my sisters and learning more and putting the little stepstones that are shaping my future, that already starts to bring you into such a different dimension almost, that it just, everything starts to make sense, and it starts lifting you up and it starts bringing that joy, and you build on and you build on. And the next thing you know, it's amazing.
The high vibrations you talk about, Raquel, I feel that. And tying in what you said, Kelly, about the pandemic and the timing and the environment, that's exactly what happened. The world stopped, and I remember these videos on the news of like, oh, New Yorkers like breakdancing on top of their buildings because they have nowhere else to go. What came in when there was time and space to stop doing everything else we're doing and just look within? What came in? Creativity, our gifts. And I truly believe when we step into creating energy, we're stepping into God energy, we're stepping into source energy. What did God do? Created this world. So we tap into this energy, this flow state, right? What makes us flow, what makes our souls flow is creativity. And when you're just so in that, it's not even about the outcome. So that's what I love so much about creativity. It's not about what you're going to end up creating in the end. That's just a plus. It's about the journey, the process. And in that, we get to know ourselves. We get to just, in that juice, we get to be and exist. And just, it's so juicy, and it's such a high vibrational state to be in. And exactly, it doesn't have to stay there the entire time, right? Even if we take out an hour on our Friday nights to come together and create this space where we can share and hold space for each other, that's changing our vibration and making us just like timeline jump, right? No, so juicy. I'm sweating.
You're on fire, Aysha.
I know, it's because you're channeling Aysha, and it's that beautiful crown. It's like
the princess has spoken.
The crown has your crown open, and it's all coming through it.
Sure it does.
Sister.
Yeah, and allow yourself to get lost. You don't have to know initially like what your Dharma is. If you're like, I don't know, embrace that. Embrace the unknown. I know, Raquel, you do a great job of that. Just you thrive in the unknown. So embrace the unknown and just trust and surrender that you will channel that. The downloads will happen. You'll get the insight. The ideas will start flowing, but in divine timing, not in time. You got to let go of control. And I know, because I used to be, I try to control everything. I'm an ex-controller. And so
in
recovering control. Yeah. And I catch myself even sometimes. I'm not 100%, right? But I know now, I have an awareness, and I'm like, okay, I get to trust and surrender. And actually, by trusting and surrendering and letting go of my grip, that is when I notice that I'm able to actually receive. Abundance starts happening. And I get more clarity on, what I'm meant to do, how I'm meant to serve in this world.
And it's not trusting yourself, right? It's trusting the universe.
Trusting the universe.
Trusting that it's going to provide. Trust that it's going to show you the path.
100%. Whatever your higher power is, for me, it's God, the universe. For, that's different. That's defined differently for different people. So, yeah.
Universe is like a parent to like a 2-year-old toddler, right? Where we can sit here and throw a tantrum. What is it? No, I'm scared. I don't know. I don't want to go on. No. We can freak out, and the universe is gonna sit there like, is this bitch done? Is she done? Is she done? Because we get delivered in the right time. And it's like, if we knew everything, life would be too boring anyways.
Ellie,
such juiciness, ladies. All this stuff, I'm like taking it all in, and I have all these thoughts, and okay. So I want to try to bring it back a little bit, maybe for some of our listeners who this is the first time they've heard the word, right? What does that mean? And Josie, you mentioned, Raquel, you also mentioned being in a job, right? And I can relate to that as well. And so people might be wondering, is my Dharma my job? And to that, I just want to say it can be. It certainly can be. But I would encourage you and invite you to think of it as not so much your job being your Dharma, but your job being a path and avenue of expression for your Dharma, right? And that really, in my 3D world, I'm a teacher. I go into a classroom, into a public high school every day, and I teach students. And that also happens to be my Dharma archetype, which we'll get into in our next episode. But when the pandemic hit, for me, it really was like this revelation of, okay, yes, I am a teacher. But what does that even really mean? What am I here to teach? Right. And so through my evolution with my Dharmic journey, I'm recognizing that it's not so much to teach grammar and American literature anymore. Right. It's to teach life and evolution, and doing that through my experiences. Right. And so, yes, my job is in line with my Dharma, but not in the same context that it always was. Right. Which also makes me think of our paths to our Dharma. Right. How do we get there? How do you know if it's the right thing? Or if someone's saying, well, gee, I'd like to find my Dharma, but how do I figure that out? Does anybody want to jump in? And
I feel like,
what was that?
I feel like you being a teacher, so the school system is like a container for you, but you're able to be flexible in this container. And essentially, it sounds like you are wanting to almost change. It's almost like you don't agree with like the school system's way of doing things. So you're like, I am here to make a change and, God, what's the word? Like pave the way of a new type of like education system.
A renaissance.
Right?
Renaissance.
Oh, perhaps that was, believe me, that was a very big realization for me. And I've spent, since the pandemic, so we're 3 years now, I've really tried to focus my energy in that way in my current space, to try to make some small incremental changes to the system. And the realization is that the system is just so much bigger and so much deeper than I even realized. And while that is certainly one of my larger goals, I would love to do that someday. I would love to start my own school. And I will. But for now, it's like I need to, like Josie and Rael, I need to take my Dharma and I need to find a new avenue, right? So that I can do that and still build on those skills and evolve. Because I need the external world to catch up to where my head is at, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah.
And that was literally what I was just thinking about, is that it's very much so about timing, right? And it's not our timing, it's the universe timing. And then you stop and you think, okay, for me, I have 24 hours in the day, 60 minutes in each hour. This is the type of, or the notion of time that we have. The universe is infinite. So it's not the same. Like for what I may be, like, I'm going through a hard time right now because my fiance is actually unemployed. And it's been over 2 months now, and it's been the longest 2 months of our lives. And we know that he's going to get something great. We know that something really good is going to come out of this. But we're like, okay, we're ready. Come on, show us. But the universe is not ready yet. There's no point in us trying to beat our heads against the wall and trying to figure it out. It's going to come when it comes. There's no point in us trying to control and trying to figure it out rationally, because it's not rational. And anything can happen, right? Like if anyone can change the course of history, is God or the universe. And this is what we're seeing now, miracles can happen. And we sit here and we pray and we put our intentions in the correct place and we wait.
And you also take aligned action steps.
Absolutely. I'm not, he's studying constantly. He's looking for jobs. He's talking to people. He's working more now than he did before. He's busier now than he was before. And for me as well, like, because I'm already planning on leaving my job and I already gave notice like a year ago, it's scary because I know that I'm going to be unemployed in 2 months. So I'm like, we're not going to have an income. But I know that this is my path. I know that this is my timing too. Like, it's been such a long time, and this is the culmination of it. There's no reason for me to doubt. So I keep on my path and I stay doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, it's going to happen. And that's how you manifest it, right?
Gems, Rael, gems.
Good point, Rael.
Thank you.
Love connecting this 3D to 4D to 5D. Again, kind of what I talked in my intro episode. I love that God makes us trust him before giving us what we deserve. But again, back in 2020, the pandemic, I'm about to go to med school, literally applying, taking my MCAT. And when my awakening happens, I know I'm not doing this. I immediately knew in that moment, I'm not going to med school. And I'm like, just sitting there in this, like, what? I have worked for this for 8 years, 4 years of high school, 4 years of university. And I'm like, this feels like the single most hardest decision of my life. At that point, it was. And I'm just sitting there like mind F, like, what is going on? But the God tests you with his trust. Do you trust me? And I was like, you know what? I do. I trust this with my whole being that it's going to work out. And everything ultimately always does work out, right? We don't know. That trust is so important to have in this process of becoming yourself and being in your purpose. And I knew, I was like, and immediately I got the download. There are many other ways of being a healer than this 3D version of what you thought what a doctor is, right? And so immediately when you get more aligned and realize your purpose, then more aligned versions of that comes. that work out better for you. And there's so much relief in that. And you're like, oh, wow, like this other job, this last job I was really struggling with really didn't serve me. And I'm so grateful to even be out of it, even if it's bringing you in money, right? Raquel, Josie.
Absolutely. And we always have to remember too that these struggles and these, hardship times that we go through, they're the universe's way to shape us into the person that we need to be for us to be able to meet the universe in what they're bringing to us. We need to be able to withstand that, to handle it. We need to be a certain person we can ask. And then the universe says, okay, I can give that to you. This is what you need to be. This is what you need to go through. This is what you need to know. And he gives.
Ask and you shall receive.
Be careful what you ask for too.
Josie.
Yes, along the lines with Dharma, we get stuck in this rat race, right, of living life. I'm a mom of 3 kids. Even whatever situation you're in, I find everyone's overwhelmed, everyone's stressed. They're just trying to get through their day. Aysha, you talked about trusting. Steph, you talked about like the struggles that you have. Those are signs to live your Dharma. So I want to ask each and every one of you, for our listeners, how can they get out of the rat race and step into their Dharma? Like if you were to give them one tip, one word or one sentence, what would you tell them to do the inner work and to step into their Dharma as a starting point, right? Because it's a journey, just as a starting point.
I would say for the first thing that came to mind with that question, Josie, was take the Dharma archetype quiz. Take Sahara's archetype quiz, because especially for someone who really has no idea, right? I find that the archetype quiz really gives us a small insight into your purpose, and it's a starting point that you can then expand from. I even did this with a group of students just last week for a class where they have to come up with a personal interest project, right? So they're coming up with a semester-long project that is based on their personal interests. And I've taught this same class for a few years now. And usually there's a process that we take the kids through to help them figure out what their passions are, what they're interested in. And some of them really are able to find that, but the majority of them just kind of flail. And I don't know if it's a generational thing, right? They really struggle with pinpointing things that excite them. And so for this time around, because I had the tool to share, I provided them with the quiz. And so many of them, when I gave that, we tallied it up, and they got their archetype, and I gave them just a very, very short explanation of, okay, so as that particular archetype, your purpose is to do these things, right? And so many of them just in their reflections were writing, that was really interesting. That was really cool. I think it's really going to help me figure it out. I saw lots of little smiles. So my go-to for the audience would definitely be take the Dharma archetype quiz. It's Sahara's quiz. It is not long. And I think it's a really useful tool. And we'll make sure that we put a link to that archetype quiz in the show notes for any of our listeners who might want to give it a shot.
Thank you, Kelly. What about you, Aysha?
I would say follow any creative pursuits you may have. Despite how busy life gets, there is a reason why we get called to create in some ways and not in some ways. And there's always some hidden gems there that may unlock the path for you.
I love it.
That's so beautiful, Aysha. I say being open to different modalities. Like even for me, I became open to, I started hearing about like clearing your chakras and more. I started learning about chakras. And I became curious. So then I decided to, do my research. I was hearing it on, certain podcast episodes. I heard like the people that I was hanging out with, they were talking about chakras. So I became curious, and I never thought that I would work with an energy healer at some point to see, like, I honestly went into that session not even knowing what to expect or what was going to come out of that session. I just knew that I was surrendering to everything that I thought I knew, because I was like, nothing is working. And so I've always been an open person, and I'm always willing to try different modalities. So as soon as I found out that I had blocked energy, I did the work to release those energies. So definitely I encourage you all to do the work in a way that you feel called to, that resonates with you, whether it's seeking an energy healer. I know like Sahara Rose has made a huge impact in my life and my healing, just listening to her podcast alone. That's a free resource that you can, the Highest Self podcast, that has been such a gift in my life. And then last but not least, let go, like just loosen that grip. And I keep saying that, and I speak passionately about that, because for so long I just held on so tight, thinking that my way was the only way, that I knew it all, that as long as I controlled everything, I can control what happens in my life. As soon as I let go and became open to new things, new modalities, and trusted and surrendered, my life changed.
For me, I would say meditation, introspection, really learning about yourself, trying to turn off that chatterbox that's always talking in your life, in your mind, and realizing that's not your true self, and trying to, I think an important practice is paying attention to what sparks joy for you, paying attention to the little things in life that spark joy, because sometimes consciously you might think that that's not something that you want to do. For example, for me, I have been told that I needed to be a therapist since I was a kid, 8, 9 years old. I have been told, Raquel, you should be a therapist. It's so easy to open up to you. I just want to talk to you. From a very young age as well, like people would just open their hearts to me and dump, their anything that they wanted to let out. And I always fought against it, because I thought that I wanted to be a corporate executive and I wanted to be powerful. And, that's what I thought. And the more I observed and the more that I compared what I saw other people experiencing too. When I put myself in their shoes, I asked, do I want to feel that? Do I want to experience that? Is that really what I'm looking for? How would that fit in my life? And then just really pausing and finding those things that, when we record, when we do these things for the podcast, sometimes before we know, it's 3 hours later. We don't feel the time go, because
Flow state
lights us up. We're doing something that we believe in. We're doing something that we want to do. We're doing something that feels effortless, even when we are putting effort into it, because it is our Dharma. And I think that's the secret sauce right there. Yeah.
Feeling alive.
Yes, absolutely. That's the point, right? What else did we come here to be other than alive? Mm-hmm. How about you, Josie? You asked a great question. Now it's your turn.
Great question.
Well, I love how you all answered first, because it's the mixture of everyone. Steph, I love how you said, find what works for you. For me, meditation and journaling has been profound, because my mind is always going, like what Raquel said. And in order to quiet the mind for myself, I needed to be in stillness. I needed to sit in silence and meditate and journal. And Aysha, that's where my creative side came out, right? it wasn't until, and I would always say I'm not creative, but it wasn't until I sat with my stillness that I was creative and that I did understand my Dharma.
So funny how so many creative people block themselves because they're like, no, and I used to do the same thing. I'd be like, I could just perfectly draw and paint and everything, but I'm not creative though. I'm not. It's like, why are we talking ourselves out of our purpose, of our gifts?
It's the programming too, right? It's the like, we're taught to think, no, if you're like,
we're not bigger than this.
No, only certain people are going to be artists. It's super hard to be an artist. Nobody can make money doing that. Or no, you're not going to live your soul's purpose. Just go work and be happy that you have a job, and for a lot of generations before us, that worked. And that's where they needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That is no longer true. Even when we were talking about the pandemic and how things changed, people realized also that they needed to value the humans around them, that it wasn't
on fire.
We realized that we needed to value family and friends, connections, and time in person together, And I mean, at the same time, the pandemic also made this possible, right? Like, had you ever heard of Zoom before the pandemic? No. And we're here.
Zoom blew up.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to be safe, to stay safe and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Is it though? Is it?
It's not for me.
Wrapping up your answer, Josie.
But and you just came out with your journal. Like you thought, you said that you weren't creative,
mm-hmm.
but look what happened. You're like, you know what? I'm going to create a journal, and yeah.
Steph, I'm glad you said that. I used to tell myself I could not meditate because my mind was always going. And I used to tell myself that I'm not creative.
Mm-hmm.
And like, look at where my journey has taken me to. My soul, my God, my universe has taken me to. Mm-hmm. And that goes for everyone who taps into that and works on their inner self, divine self.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, Josie.
You can be whoever you want. If you want to be an artist, you can be an artist. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can be an entrepreneur. Don't limit yourself to who you think you are because somebody told you this, because your parents said that you're not capable.
We are multi-dimensional,
multi-passionate. You are meant to be multi-dimensional and multi-passionate. You can be all three, an artist, an entrepreneur, and a warrior too. And a visionary. So be it all.
100%.
And you're meant to make money doing that. So
amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Do not limit yourself.
No. And that's one of the things too, that the quiz shows us as well, right? Is that we all have all of those archetypes within us. And at different points in our lives and in different points on our journey, some are going to be more prominent than others, but they're still all there. So it's so beautiful. Ladies, this was an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed this. And we are going to put a few links in our show notes for our listeners. We're going to have the Dharma Archetype quiz in there. We're also going to link Sahara Rose's book, Discover Your Dharma, if anybody wants to explore it a little more deeply.
Yes.
Thank you. Till next time. Find what makes your soul flow.
Be yourself.